Hey everyone, Mike Harris, Director of Public Policy for Gun Owners Action League, and I'm here with my friend Chris Martel from Comm2A.
Hey Mike, how are you doing?
I am good, my friend. It's awesome to have you here. This is something that we should probably more regularly do, is get you guys out into the public to be seen. I mean, if that's what you're into, but like we were just talking about, you guys are kind of the snipers, like on the battlefield here, coming in and kind of just picking things off from the background and being the kind of the main contact for lawsuits in mass on 2A stuff. So yeah,
that's pretty much what we do at Comm2A. We take things at a very tactical and nuanced approach. Everything we do, we try to find cases where if we're not going to win outright, we're going to lose small to set things up for an appeal down the road.
Yes.
That's kind of what we do.
It's a great strategy.
We understand that the legal system here in Massachusetts, especially related to the Second Amendment, is largely stacked against us.
That is an understatement.
That's
that's everybody watching knows.
Yeah, that's a challenge we have to work through, unfortunately.
So one of the interesting things about you guys is you're not a team of lawyers looking for lawsuits. You guys are all like engineers and like scientists and stuff.
That's exactly right.
So it's a neat thing to see you guys come at this stuff from different angles.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we do. I mean, I'm an engineer by trade. Work a full-time job in addition to doing all of this fun stuff. I get to travel all over the world and meet interesting people and talk about really cool stuff a lot of the time. So
fighting the government as a hobby.
Pretty much, but it's a hobby that's basically a full-time second job because I typically will pull in between 30 and 50 hours a week on Comm2A stuff in addition to my full-time job, in addition to some volunteer work I do with mentoring robotics kids.
Oh, man. That is a full plate.
It's a full plate, but it's a lot of fun, and it keeps me busy.
So, Chris, so tell me a little bit about like the history of Comm2A, where you guys like kind of started where you are now.
Yeah, so we got founded a whole bunch of years ago with the goal of basically finding ways to attack infringements in Massachusetts, providing legal referrals and legal aid in some cases to folks who have been wronged, folks who are dealing with delays, people who are basically had nobody else to go to because there wasn't really a good reach for any of the national organizations into Massachusetts.
And that's kind of it's kind of been the case. Like it's kind of like being starkly shown by a lot of the inaction from national groups on Chapter 135, which is not to say that nobody has done anything, because we're working with a lot of them with, all the suits that we're all involved in. But, you would have thought there would be a lot more of like a chomping at the bit kind of situation with that. But you're right, there's not a lot of reach into Massachusetts.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Chapter 135 kind of, I don't want to say reluctance necessarily, but a slow start to things from the national organizations was waiting for a lot of the cases that were before the Supreme Court last term to get settled and fleshed out, either accepted, argued, et cetera. And when those things didn't happen, I think that kind of put a lot of the wheels in motion. But as we all know, the wheels of justice turn eternally slowly.
Yeah. And I mean, absolutely. I mean, and then to have, Snope, and I mean, just as an example, to have Snope and Ocean State Tactical crawl all the way to the finish line just to be denied cert. And then, what happened with Rahimi and everything this session was not a banner Supreme Court session for the 2A folks.
But I think a number of the justices there on the Supreme Court are openly expressing their displeasure at the way things have been treated as of late.
I agree. I mean, if you look at just the mere fact that they let Thomas Wright Bruin and he wrote it the way it was, wrote it the way it is emblematic of how the majority of the court feels about the Second Amendment issue as a whole. But I think, I don't know if it's them being scared or if it's them just not wanting to overstep.
I'd have to say it's probably more of an overstep. They don't want to do something that's so broad that it's attacked as an openly political decision. They want to have everything on a solid legal foundation to push things forward.
And I mean, that's kind of how it's supposed to go. I guess.
I would agree.
You know, it's tough to sit here on the other side of things and be like, come on, let's go, guys. Let's get this done.
Well, it's like we've got all these cases that have been before them and denied cert, unfortunately, or granted, but on extremely narrow circumstances and pushed back. And that's actually one of the things that got me involved with Comm2A in the first place. Back when the Caetano case went before the Supreme Court, and they were like, tasers are considered effective weapons, and Massachusetts, you can't ban them.
Yeah,
but it was narrowly tailored in her circumstance specifically, and then I ended up as the named plaintiff in a federal lawsuit against the stun gun ban here in Massachusetts. And right when the legislature basically read the writing on the walls, they immediately passed laws which made them legal, although in really obscure circumstances.
Yeah, they're considered firearms.
Correct.
They're treated the same as handguns. So it's kind of funny. Like if you have them with a battery you can't replace, you can't just throw it in the trash. Once it's done, you can't just throw it away.
There's a lot of weirdness.
Especially now with all like the registration requirements and everything, it's going to get even stranger with that stuff. But yeah, I mean this is all interesting. Everybody watching is interested in this stuff. So, but yeah, let's go back a little bit. So, when were you guys founded? When was Comm2A?
Geez, you're going to make me ask that question.
Oh no,
I want to say back in 2005, if I remember correctly. I could be off. It's been a while, man.
No worries. So, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
That's fine.
But yeah, I mean, you guys are. Your focus has been mostly lawsuits and stuff, and that's kind of where everything seems to be tacking now, especially in Massachusetts, since the lobbying efforts at the State House are pretty much useless at this point. There's nobody in that building. Since COVID, we've kind of had just a detachment from just public life of or relationships between these folks and their actual constituents. So, especially when you're looking at things like this hearing that's coming up next Friday with the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee with 59 bills in it, everybody's kind of looking at this thing like getting panicked. And it's like, well, these bills are all like refiles from like the last like 4 sessions, and they're probably not going to go anywhere. There's some great stuff in there. There's some horrifying stuff in there, but it's one of those things where, we got to go there and we got to show up and we got to make sure we're seen and heard. But, they're just going to throw half this stuff into a study order and just forget about it. And then it'll get filed again next session and it'll be the same thing. So until there's some actual leadership changes in that building, I think the way to go on, especially the way to go on advocacy, especially 2A advocacy in Massachusetts, is going to be through the legal system, and the writing's on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, goal was the carrot, kind of leading folks in the legislature through your efforts, and we were the stick that nobody saw coming.
Exactly. Exactly. So, but we're kind of alluding to, that's kind of changing a little bit. We're kind of merging. Well, not really merging, but we're kind of on seeing we're similar
parallel paths.
Yeah, on parallel paths. But we're working together, which is really cool. It's fun to talk to you guys about this stuff because you come with like all these stats and all this information and stuff. I'm like, oh man, I wouldn't have even thought to go down that pathway, but this is incredibly helpful to have and to see and to have you guys on board with all the cases that we're working on with all the folks nationally, like we were talking about, is awesome. I mean, so I don't know, let's get into it. So some of the stuff that we're working on together is the 2 big ones are the delay cases.
That's a big one. We kind of all know that there's massive delays in LTC and FID processing. The interesting thing is that like the statute says the licensing authority has to give the colonel of the state police a copy of the application and a copy of the applicant's fingerprints within 7 days. It says shall. There's no 2 ways about it. It says they shall do this.
Yeah.
And then they must issue a decision within 40 days unless the colonel of the state police hasn't gotten back to them yet.
So a lot. So this has kind of led to this weird limbo area that a lot of folks are in, where they have, especially with the fact that you can submit your application online now. So I just renewed my license in Marlborough, and I called because we've heard people say like, oh, you need an appointment to turn in the money, you need an appointment to go get your photo taken, you need an appointment to go get your fingerprints. When you're renewing, obviously half of that is untrue, but if you submit your application online, the date that says is not actually your application date, because then you have to call your local police department and say, hey, when can I come in to drop off the money? And give you the handwritten affidavit that I didn't have any lost or stolen firearms.
Yep.
So we're seeing people stuck in this weird limbo area where they've applied to renew their license, and the police department has given them an appointment like months out to drop off a check and a piece of paper.
Well, yes. I mean, we've seen people in some cities and towns here that like, oh, your first appointment, it's good in about 6 months or 9 months. And that's actually what the plaintiff we were working with out of Boston ran into. He applied just after the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And Boston said, yeah, talk to us in about 6 months. We'll get your fingerprints taken. Mind you, they took his money right away. That wasn't a problem. But
Of course.
They said, oh, well, come to us in 9 months. And we kind of went, well, that's not really fair. We waited till he hit his 40-day mark. And then we worked with Attorney Jason Guida and filed a case in Boston in the courts.
So I was going to say that led to this is the Bass Thomas case.
Which the Bass Thomas case was a little interesting because basically the licensing officer for Boston said, yeah, we're violating the law, but it's the law is antiquated and out of date and doesn't reflect reality.
Even though they just revamped all of the laws a year ago, and these two standards are still in it.
Correct.
An act modernizing firearm laws passed a year ago is no longer modern.
That's exactly kind of the weird crux about it. They kind of threw out that, hey, it's antiquated and we do our applications in the order in which they're received. We do fingerprints in the order in which the requests come in. And my question to him, and I kind of wish I'd been able to ask it, is, well, does that mean a new officer in Boston has to wait 6 or 9 months to get an LTC so he can go to work?
Of course not.
Or does that mean that people who are professionals and have to have fingerprinting as part of a background check, do they have to wait 6 or 9 months?
No, it's just us. Because it's ideological, Chris, and you know that.
I know that, but it doesn't mean I don't like asking the question.
Of course. You want to have it on record in black and white. And but this decision, the initial decision by the district court judge, is horrifyingly fascinating.
Well,
because
the district court judge in this case actually took under advisement the lawyer for the city of Boston's approach that, yes, there's a time limit in the statute, but there's no enforcement clause, so there's nothing the court can do about it. Have a nice day.
Yeah. So that was the whole decision about. That's actually what we're appealing. So we're saying, or what you guys are appealing, they're saying, there's no punishment for not following the 40 days. So it's not real. It doesn't really exist. It's not a real thing. So, and the judge agreed with that line of reasoning on the district court level. So, and that has been kind of one of, after speaking with Jason and speaking with Dan Hagan and some of our other attorneys, that is kind of the through line with some of this delay cases. It's like, what are you asking for relief? What can the court actually enforce? So at one point we were hearing that the printer, which is out of production,
doesn't exist anymore.
They don't make parts to repair it. One of the printers was down. So what is the court going to do? Is it going to say, hey, FRB, you're ordered by the court to purchase a new printer? Like, what are they going to do?
Well, what I like to know is why can't Massachusetts be like other states and just use the same printer you this for your driver's license?
Right?
I could go out on a limb here and say that's probably pretty easy.
But this stuff is all full circle. I mean, I say this all the time. I feel like a Looney Tunes, like conspiracy theorist sometimes, like connecting red thread. I'm like, all right, so Chapter 135 did not have any funding in it attached because the governor could go in and do line item vetoes if she didn't want to fund certain parts of it. But at the same time, that means that they can just not fund it. So FRB has like 8 employees for, right now, 600,000 licensed firearm owners in Massachusetts. And, God knows how many more on top of that are applying for the first time. And, we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, which is kind of makes what we're going to talk about next kind of strange, because we're seeing kind of disparities between towns and how they deal with this stuff. And a lot of times when we're hearing from towns that are significantly delayed, they're saying they're blaming the state, and then people will call FRB and they'll blame the town. So it's kind of, it's difficult to get a handle on some of this, because Chris brought a list with him of a lot of like the big towns, and there is a huge, from the worst one down to the best one, there's a disparity of up to 11 months on some of this stuff.
It's crazy.
So give us some of the highlights and the lowlights on this thing.
So last year we needed some data for delays. So I threw together a little Google form survey, and I've gotten about 200 responses as of late.
Yeah.
And we've got folks, from basically every corner of Massachusetts, from Rockland to Granby to Worcester, Boston, Attleboro. Rockland's an interesting example.
Yeah. And some of the towns that you would think would be good are really bad. And some of the towns you would think would be bad
are really good. You got towns, like Rockland is a good example of this. A gentleman received his renewal notice in July and entered his renewal into Merck's right the next day, which is the online portal that we can all use to do renewals and new applications.
Well, half the application.
Well, allegedly. His LTC is supposed to expire at the end of December. We're going on 4 months now, and there's been no action taken by Rockland.
And that's for a renewal.
That's for a renewal.
That's wild.
Which should be simple.
But then you have,
you get folks like Granby.
this is more surprising than that. I
would agree. Granby, for those who don't know where it is, it's a very small town, kind of in the woods of Route 2. Gentleman applied. He had an FID. He applied for an LTC on the 1st of December last year and had his license in hand on the 22nd of December, 21 days later.
That's crazy.
So, I don't know how that can be the state invoking any delays or pushbacks or whatnot, but it's crazy.
And this has nothing to do with anything that we're talking about right now, but it just speaks to the absurdity of the process and like the actual overall system. So I just renewed my license in Marlborough, and I got it back surprisingly quickly. I sent in my application on August 28th. I got to drop off my check on like September 3rd or something like that. And I got my license. I got my new license, my renewal on like Monday, like this week. And I'm looking at it, and I know you get a new PIN, because I always hear John going through the FFL stuff when he's transferring firearms. Like, all right, I know you got to get a new PIN, but you get a new license number.
And that's
every time.
That's a weird one.
I've had the same S number on my driver's license since I was, since I was 16 years old.
Since they start making you use the S numbers?
So and it's been the same one for, I'm 40 now. I got my license when I was 17. What is that, 33 years?
Yeah.
For God's sake, why are we doing this to ourselves?
It
makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And then if you're one of those interesting people that has an LTC, has an FID, and a machine gun license, you've all got different licenses with different pins.
Yeah.
And different expiration dates.
And it's also, so when we're talking about, so this is getting into it, but like when we're talking about all these new systems they're setting up about registering firearms and making sure that things are tracked, like the transfers are tracked properly, and you have to submit your affidavit of lost and stolen firearms every time you renew. So is that attached to your license number, or is it attached to your Social Security? It doesn't make sense.
It's supposed to be, allegedly, from what I understand, attached to the profile that exists in their system, which is attached to your name, address, and all the licenses you've ever had.
I just don't know why we're doing this to ourselves. It just seems like during the debate on Chapter 135, one of the drums that we were banging over and over again was how complicated and unneedlessly weird this system was. And they said, oh, well, we're gonna make it top to bottom, change it. And it feels like it's a whole bunch of Band-Aids, like just slapped on top of each other, just fixing a new problem every 10 years. Perceived problem. And they just did the exact same thing.
Well, remember, that's not a bug, it's a feature.
Oh, it's a feature, absolutely. But, I just, not to say, I mean, I don't know if I'll get crucified for saying this, but I feel bad for the folks over at FRB who are trying to keep track of this stuff. I know by law, they are tasked with doing this. And in order to do their job, it's just the most complicated system I can possibly think of putting together.
Well, I think it's because it's an antiquated system that's been built on, cobbled together, shoehorned into a box. It's things that were never meant to talk together being forced to talk together. And unfortunately, they don't speak the same language. They don't even have a common translator. It's just, let's just throw data at a wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. It's wild. So, so I think that's kind of, I don't know, does that sum it up pretty well?
Well, I would like to talk about the little fun letter that we wrote to the fine folks
let's
at the
do that.
Department of Justice.
Get into it. Yeah.
So, as I'm sure we're all aware, the Department of Justice has taken a very, let's just say, aggressive approach with the sheriff's office in Los Angeles, who was slow walking applications to the point where people who are applying for a concealed carry license or even just a handgun permit in Los Angeles County were being told it's going to be at least a year before we even talk to you. And then it might even be longer before you get a license.
So we decided on the back of that to kind of springboard off the Bass Thomas decision and do something similar. So, this was your case. You guys started out working on this one with Jason Gaida, and we kind of hopped on in a support role and just, lending our name and all of what we can do to this. And we have I'd say the three of us, you guys, us, and Jason all put together a letter to go up to Harmeet Dillon to say, hey, look at Massachusetts also. We're having the same issue. Look at what they've put into law and look at how they're treating their own system.
Look at, here it is in black and white.
Yeah.
The judge and the licensing authority for Boston both saying, there's a statute in here that says there's a timeline, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm pretty sure that the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice doesn't like being told that there's nothing they can do about something.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
same.
Boston's obviously one of the more egregious offenders, but when it comes to just sheer arrogance, I've got to say Worcester's probably right up there.
I was just going to say Worcester, yeah. It seems like Attleboro's oddly
obnoxious too.
Yeah, that's a good word for it, obnoxious.
We got a gentleman who applied in Worcester and was told, we can get your fingerprints done in 4 to 6 months. They make them turn in sealed letters of reference, which in his case, they opened in the waiting room and were reading his sealed letters aloud, mocking the people who wrote the letters for their writing style.
While the applicant is sitting there?
Yep, and the waiting room's full of people.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's just...
That's a little, I'll call it uncivilized.
Yeah, and that's from the police department is doing that? That just feels gross.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I hate hearing stuff like that because you don't want to think that about these guys. I mean, when the first half of Chapter 135 came through in the House side, and the entire membership of MCOPA, the Chiefs Police Association, was able to read it, they unanimously shot it down. And, so it gave us a little bit of hope that maybe some of these guys were on our side. And then you see these big city chiefs, Worcester, big city. But, it's what is Worcester? It's like the third largest city in New England.
Something like
that, Which is a wild thing to say out loud, knowing Worcester. But it's just to see behavior like that, especially from like the rank and file like guys on the department is really disheartening.
Well, you got to remember too, though, it's got to start somewhere, and I'm sure it doesn't start with them.
No, But it just, again, this is the whole wall of red thread thing. Every turn you take, there's some weird roadblock up there stymieing your ability to, your ability to defend yourself in Massachusetts. There's just these roadblock after roadblock. And, even just to bring the Kyle Collada case in on this, the guy's crime was wanting to exercise his Second Amendment rights while simultaneously being poor.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Kyle's case there, because one thing that we're going to be able to do, we're going to cut a check for $5,000 towards his
hell yeah,
towards his legal fees.
That's awesome.
We're going to get that mailed out today.
Oh, we love that. Thank you so much, dude. That's awesome. And I don't know if you guys have you guys worked with Dan Hagen before?
We have.
Oh man,
just a solid guy.
What a great lawyer he is too. I mean, the Santana Rodriguez case, that's huge. That's huge. I watched the oral arguments, and he had the judges in the palm of his hand like the whole time. It's great. I recommend you watch that. The previous video is with Dan, and his oral arguments are on YouTube. You should check them out if you haven't seen them. They're great. But now we just we have a solid foundation of attorneys in this state that are willing to stick their neck out and do this kind of work, and it's awesome to have you guys here to kind of organize things and get this stuff moving. I mean, you guys are awesome.
That's pretty much what we do. I pull data together. I connect some dots. I line things up. We work with basically all of the large national organizations too. We're kind of the boots on the ground that nobody notices.
Yeah, like I said, you guys are like the sniper on the battlefield. It's cool.
We just kind of don't exist until we do.
So that being said, you guys, I think, you had some turnover last year, and I think you guys are looking for folks to get involved.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I would recommend, so is it Comm2A.org?
Yep, Comm2A.org or info@comm2A.org.
Yep. And if you're interested, shoot them a message. Just say, hey, I want to get involved. I want to, I don't necessarily know what I can do. They're always looking for folks to help out.
Yeah,
you guys had, and like I said, it's like we were talking about at the beginning. You guys are kind of an unconventional organization. Your target is lawsuits, but none of you guys are lawyers.
Nope.
Which is really cool because you can see things from like other angles. So don't think that you need to be like some kind of a legal expert to get involved. It's really just it's a cool way for law involved folks to have a huge impact on this stuff, and you guys are doing awesome work.
I appreciate it. Thank
we
you.
are super excited to work with you guys as often as we do. It's awesome.
I agree.
It's way cool. So yeah, I think that about sums up most of it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I mean, we've got delays are the bane of our existence.
Yeah, it's huge.
But we're working through some fun stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people might say like, oh, well, we're more worried about the assault weapons ban and the pistol roster. It's like, well, wait a second. This is how you get more foot soldiers in the game. If we don't have folks who are looking to exercise their Second Amendment rights, you don't have advocates for Second Amendment rights.
Well, and that's a big part of it. The other thing is there's already been a number of cases that have been filed in the past that were done, let's say, hastily, which has now set bad precedent for challenging pistol rosters and assault weapon bans and things like that, at least in Massachusetts. So there's already a much higher bar we need to cross in order to really flesh that stuff out until there's a sea change with some kind of ruling from the Supreme Court saying no.
That's a huge point, actually. I'm glad you just brought that up. Bad facts make bad law. So if, a lot of people were really worried about us not getting things filed quickly enough, like we talked about earlier, but you need to be judicious about this stuff and figure out who your best plaintiffs are to get the best results and who has the best story, who's in the best position to get this done. What are the best attorneys that can write things properly, who has the time to spend on this stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's actually a huge point that nobody really thinks about. It's like, oh, just file a lawsuit. It's like, well, we need to make sure that we can get this to the point where it affects the law and not just the person looking for their license.
Well, exactly.
And that's been the big hard part about this.
Our biggest, the strategy that we approach is basically one domino at a time.
Yeah,
sure, you can go in there with a giant slam dunk, be Godzilla, and knock the whole city over, but that's a once in a lifetime type event. We got to do things one small, narrowly focused, narrowly tailored case at a time. Yeah. Because if you go in there swinging big every time, you're going to miss. And when you miss, you're setting yourself up for failure in the future.
And it could affect like larger swaths of law that you didn't intend for it to affect. But that goes the other way too. I mean, the smaller changes make for bigger changes later on.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So you guys are doing awesome work. Yeah, man, I got nothing else to ask you. This has been great. Just introduction, just making sure everybody knows who Comm2A is. I think you guys do amazing work, and you should be recognized for it. And so, yeah, once again, I'm Mike Harris, Director of Public Policy for Gun Owners Action League, and this is my friend
Chris Martel, the President and Executive Director of Comm2A.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.